Welcome to the Killer Innovation Show, the longest continuously produced podcast in history. Each week, Phil McKinney brings you the insights and strategies to amplify your creativity and innovation skills. Here's your host, Phil McKinney.
Welcome to the Mobile Bus. We are on the road. We are in Richardson, Texas this week. This next interview addresses the topic that comes up fairly often about public-private partnerships, particularly when it comes around innovation. The guest in this interview will be Paul Voelker, who is the mayor of Richardson, Texas. Doug McDonald, who is for the city of Richardson. He's the manager of Office of Innovation and Placement Initiatives. And then Dr. Joseph Pancrazio, who is the VP of Innovation Research at UT Dallas. The topics we cover today in the interview include everything from the Richardson IQ, which is what they call the Innovation Quarter, which is a very large piece of land that Richardson is bringing together both established companies but also startups, creating an environment for innovation, around innovation. And that includes the participation from local universities. We talk about community partnership, the role that community play in order to make these kinds of initiatives that affect citywide, but more importantly with Richardson, region-wide. Richardson is a suburb of Dallas-Fort Worth, and Mayor Voelker, who I've known for many, many years, he and I were at HP together. Paul is looking at his role as mayor as being regional influence, not just within the confines of the borders of the city of Richardson. And then Joe Pancrazio, we had a great conversation as part of this interview around UT Dallas, the University of Texas at Dallas, very unique university with a very unique history tied to Texas Instruments, and the role of the university and these kinds of programs. And we talked specifically about technology transfer, taking intellectual properties from universities and being able to support the launch of companies that then does have a payback. And it's a very unique structure. You are going to want to listen in on that and how to partner with universities for innovation research. So you want to listen all the way to the end. But before we jump into this episode, got a quick favor to ask: like, follow, and share. Like this episode, follow us on social media, and share with others. Let others know about what this show is about. And if there is somebody that you know that would benefit from this particular episode, send them the link. Share it on your social media. When an episode comes out, we post it to our social media. You sharing it helps us spread the word. So, without any further ado, let's jump into this week's episode. So, Paul, I was trying to think the last time we were face to face was probably when we were both still at HP.
At HP, yes.
As the joke goes, the HP mafia is strong. I'm here with Paul Voelker. Paul is the mayor of Richardson, Texas.
Yes.
But you also have a day. I don't know. Do you call the mayor the day job or the other job the other job?
Yeah, I'm still a technology guy. I moved to Richardson, Texas in 1983, right out of college, and I went to work for Hewlett-Packard. And I've held jobs in sales and marketing, portfolio management, corporate development, all sorts of fun things there. And I worked there for 28 years. I literally started on Campbell Road here in Richardson, which is part of the Richardson Innovation Quarter. So HP was there because TI was there and Collins Radio was there and companies like Raytheon and others were all there. So the old test and measurement guys loved calling on those customers. So I've worked in this area at HP, at Ericsson, a British company called Capita, Lone Star Technologies today I'm at. So everything from telecommunications, obviously IT, outsourcing when we acquired EDS. I was one of the guys that moved over to EDS right at the acquisition. So I've been in this area for over 35 years now. It's why am I mayor? Well, the city of Richardson gave me a job, gave me my wife, my kid, my home, a career that I'm proud of. And so it's my way to give back to the community. And I look at the area that we call the Innovation Quarter, and I think, wow, all of the interesting technology that's come from that area. The space race, Rockwell and other companies here with the shuttle, but going way back, we're celebrating 60 plus years recently where we were the satellite beamings from Cedar Rapids, Iowa to here with voice and video.
Yeah, I saw your social media post on that. It was pretty interesting when you think about some of the
innovation goes way back in this area.
Right.
And, Apollo 11, the microwave technology that came out of Collins Radio, allowing for the television broadcasts to come from the moon, were done in this city. So there's pretty neat things historically that we're here. And we're known as the telecom corridor. And the area that's called the IQ was kind of where all the technology was done. You had your Class A office buildings all over the city and the area, but the labs, the dry and wet labs, the final assembly, some distribution, things like that were all done in this 1,200 acre area. And so it kind of, after the telecom bust, which we all got to live through, we diversified, which was good for the city to do into other industries and technologies. But that 1,200 acres was always kind of sitting there, and many of us said, it needs a new vision, it needs a new mission. So we decided, why don't we look at innovation and focus, instead of on really large companies, maybe focusing on how can we support the entrepreneurs or earlier stage companies. And so we spent literally 4 or 5 years between the Chamber of Commerce and the city of Richardson studying other areas to figure out what did they do in things like land use decisions. How did they work with educational institutions? How did they find capital and get it excited about the area?
Right.
So we spent a lot of time doing that work.
Well, and I think, you were a city council for a long time before you became mayor.
Well, no, I was only 2 years, and then I've been mayor now for over 7. It'll be.
You're in your third term?
Fourth
term. Holy smokes. I've lost track because I keep following your progress.
Yeah, it'll be 10 years at the end of this term.
Well, and you and I were talking before we started this interview, which was around the fact that there's this false belief, that innovation is all concentrated like in the traditional Silicon Valley. And
right.
Listeners of the show know that I'm very much in the mindset that is totally wrong. There's innovation occurring all over the world, really, and some amazing things that are going on that people just aren't aware of how much. Like, for instance, the history of the fact that the satellite communications from Iowa that was here to Richardson
right.
is proving the early form of satellite data transmission,
right.
And proving that out, and then how much of the telecom industry actually got birthed here.
Well,
in the Dallas area.
For the telecom geeks listening, the Judge Green's ruling, right, when they opened up the telecom marketplace, Collins Radio was the sole provider of technology for what became MCI.
Yep.
The microwave technology.
MCI, right? Microwave Communications Inc.,
so
which is the name of it.
One other aspect of Richardson that's unique is because of the relationship between Collins and MCI, all these international companies that wanted to come into the U.S. market said, well, let's go to Richardson, and if Collins can sell to MCI in a very untraditional way, maybe we can too. So that's how the Fujitsus and the Alcatels, the Nortels, and all those companies decided to come and put their North American headquarters.
Right. Well, I want to bring in Doug McDonald. So, Doug, you're the manager of the innovation placement here. So you got the unfortunate task of taking the vision and trying to make it real. But Richardson already has had a long history of this, right?
Yes.
So does that make it easier or harder, given that you've got at least some name recognition out there?
No, I think it makes it easier. The support of City Council to be able to kind of push this forward and continue to kind of build on the vision that was created by all of our stakeholders, all of our businesses. The mayor mentioned we spent We spent a good 2.5 years working with the property owners and the businesses to make sure this is the direction we want to take this district. And the supportive councils really kind of helped us be able to kind of spearhead that. But the history that we have here at Richardson, that's something I continually like to say when I'm talking to new businesses, trying to recruit new companies here to Richardson, is that a lot of cities, especially here in North America, have a problem trying to figure out their identity. What's unique about this area that's unique among any other places? And I think Richardson, our DNA of this kind of pioneering technology, the electronic city, as we used to call ourselves, when back in the 60s and 70s, as the telecom boom started happening, and then just kind of the evolution of that with UT Dallas being right here in our backyard, at one of the leading edge institutions here in North America, has really kind of given us a leg up. And having all that kind of background, having what's going on today in the world, makes my job a lot easier. Of doing recruitment for new businesses, doing a lot of the collaboration with a lot of our institutional partners, and just bringing in the right people and the right ingredients to help kind of build this ecosystem of innovation.
Yeah, but and goes back because I don't know, it's pre-COVID. Paul and I were on the phone, and he sent me up some of the early materials around the QT. And the thing that impressed me is there's a lot of places around the world who all are trying to draw like an arbitrary line around a piece of land and saying, "Boom, innovation happens here." It doesn't work. You could prove to all these, Silicon Prairie, Urbana-Champaign, Illinois. I went to the University of Illinois in Chicago, not Urbana-Champaign, but they try to draw this boundary around Urbana-Champaign and say Silicon Prairie, right? So what? You can draw a line, put a label on it, nothing happens.
Right.
In this case, you're not doing that. It's different.
It's a lot different. I think one of the reasons is because here in North Texas, the next 15, 20 years, we have 3 million more people coming to the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. So the entire state of Arkansas is coming to North Texas. So we don't have an issue with trying to recruit folks here. They're already coming. It's more of an internal competition among our internal cities of where are they going to land here in North Texas. And I think that's the uniqueness of our location, being just the first northern suburb of Dallas, being on the light rail system and being part of the DART commuter system, being just its current built environment, being really open for startups and for entrepreneurs. 7.5 million square feet of office flex space here in the IQ. That's perfect real estate for new businesses wanting to get their foot in and start. So I think it is different here because of what we've done to the investments of being the kind of premier tech hub of Texas, having our partnerships with DART, with UT Dallas. I'll tell you that the partnership we have with UT Dallas, and I know we have Joe here as well. The announcement we've made with them to actually plant a second flag here in Richardson is hands down probably the biggest announcement we've made in the past 5 years. And having the research institutional partner here in the IQ is really kind of helped legitimize our efforts of becoming this premier tech hub.
Well, I think that raises an important component, right? Because it isn't just about having office space. It's not just about having, support of local government. But there's a mix of things that you got to have. You need to have that support, but you also need funding mechanisms. You need people that are willing to put forward risk capital. You have to have access, though, to expertise, right?
That's
now,
correct.
that can be employees at other companies, right? So grab someone from HP or TI or whatever, but it's also the next generation of tech talent. And that's where the partnership on university research plays an important role. So we also have here Dr. Joe Pancrazio, who is representing the UT Dallas, which I know I'll jump in here, Paul, before you jump in. It's UT Dallas in Richardson, which is kind of a unique naming convention. So you're part of IQ also. I mean, UT Dallas has got a significant footprint here, but also UT Dallas has an amazing history of breakthrough research that then itself has also spawned off startups, etc.
Exactly, Phil. And I can't tell you how happy I'm to be with my friends here from the city of Richardson. And it's truly, it was colleagues and it's becoming friends. And I'm 6 years into being here in North Texas, enjoying every minute of it because of all the opportunities that people who ask, what if, right? And we do that all the time. One of the things that Paul was talking about was the ability to attract talent from all over the world as part of the history here. Well, we're the 11th most diverse campus in the country. And you know why? Because the families who moved here to make their stake to be part of the technology development process that is in Richardson, those are our modern Texans. And we have the recipients of some fantastic kids. And about UT Dallas is 30,000 students. It's STEM oriented. So we're about the sciences, we're about the technology, we're about management. All of those things are really important. 76% of our students are in those disciplines in the sciences as well as in management. With it, we've had a growing research portfolio, and that at the time, our founders, of course, were the founders of Texas Instruments. We were a university that came from industry, right, not an industry that came from a university. It's quite the reverse. And with it, I think it's been part. Doug mentioned DNA, and that's part of our DNA. And we have a plaza at Texas Instruments. Okay, it's who we are, and we embrace that idea of working with industry on all different levels. Now, the question of why we're involved with the IQ. Well, at the core of who I am, and I know this through various management and leadership training exercises, I define myself as somebody who loves experiments. And I think every day is a great opportunity to ask a what-if question. If I can answer those what-if questions, the great question we're asking here is, can we partner with the city of Richardson to take an area, to revitalize it, to grow and expand entrepreneurship and innovation in this zone? Can we be part of the beginning of something amazing? And that's why we're all in on this. And, a couple funny things, and Doug and I have had this kind of conversation before. We're standing up 5 centers that will be located at the Innovation Quarter. 2 are going to be oriented towards applied artificial intelligence. And what does that mean? Well, it's where we have people with expertise who are working to solve problems that our customers have, right, or the people within industry.
Real world problems
versus
I've got a technology in search of a solution.
And I have a theory I want to generate, right, that probably has no applicability.
Right.
It's about solving problems with the technology, in this case, artificial intelligence. We also have multi-scale drone imaging to give basically multi-scale information about a particular environment. We have a Center for Surgical Innovation. And we had one of our original inspirations that involved mobility automation and really connected mobility. And the fun thing about this, and this tells you about the faculty at UT Dallas, is that we made a call. We said, give us your best ideas. Well, we had 10 fantastic ideas, and we picked the best 5 bunch. We've got more to go. There are more groups out there with more ideas. So I consider what we're doing at the IQ the beginning of something that's going to be amazing. It's going to be the beginning of getting our students and having them to be interacting with members of industry through capstone or the senior year project,
right,
that might be interacting and supporting an industry cause. Our Venture Development Center, which was developed 10 years ago, the inspiration of Bob Robb and David Daniel, former president, has really gone and done extremely well. We've had 5 company corporate exits, and which in several instances the university has equity. So we've grown up an awful lot,
right,
relative to entrepreneurship and innovation in ways that the IQ exactly is part of our larger plan. And our plan is to never have our flag set anywhere, to never let the sun set where our flag may be. We'd like to expand our footprint throughout the North Texas area, in particular at Richardson at the IQ.
Yep.
I think both themes here that you heard, and you touched on it. In one aspect, it is called the Innovation Quarter, that is 1,200 acres. But, and you're going to laugh when I'll show you, we actually call it this. We call it the Richardson Way. I don't know where I got that idea.
Yeah, I don't know either.
But the sub note to that is we plan our work and work our plan.
Right.
And it has to do with the people that live in the city. They're engineers. Let's be honest, right? And they want to know, what are we doing? Why are we doing it? And when are we going to do it? And then they want to measure, are you doing it?
Right.
Right. So that's who we are from a DNA perspective. When you look at things like the Silicon Prairie, the Electronic City, the Telecom Corridor, the IQ, they've never had actually Richardson boundaries. So even our Chamber of Commerce, which I had the pleasure of being the chairman of, we had this group that we called the technology business side. So, geez, what are we going to call this? And it's gone through 3 or 4 name changes, but it's called Tech Titans today. It's almost 400 technology companies at a regional level. Now, it's owned fiduciarily through the Richardson Chamber. A lot of the members don't even know that because we take a regional perspective.
Right.
And because we have so many international companies, I really do get the opportunity on a weekly basis to sit down and think of things from a city, county, state, country, and then global perspective. And we do understand that we live in a global marketplace, and we embrace that. And UT Dallas exemplifies that global marketplace.
Yeah.
The students there are as diverse, to your point, as possible. But even, I think, a third of your graduate students are international based. It's amazing.
Yeah, really, it's been fantastic.
Yeah, so that brings up a point, right? Because diversity in any context, whether it's employment or it's education, as you're preparing, to graduate, as you look particularly in more advanced degrees, masters, PhDs, we're seeing more and more diversity. And it's that diversity that brings in the really great ideas because we bring our entire perspective. We all grew up different, we live different, we see problems different. It somewhat feeds into, the reason I'm here in Richardson this week is with autism.
Inclusion is magical this
right,
week.
And my argument has always been that, particularly with autism, is in the innovation and creativity space, you want people to who can look at problems differently.
Yeah.
Well, anybody on the spectrum, they look at everything differently. The challenge being is, as managers and leaders, we've gotten this mindset that our staff, our students are all kind of this cookie cutter. And guess what?
They're not.
They are not. And the smart ones figure out how to unlock that. And the same applies to the university is also how do you unlock that full potential of every student that comes into UT Dallas?
Oh, that's a challenge. Probably the common denominator among all these students is that they're very bright. And especially our undergraduate population, our graduate students, of course, are excellent, but our undergrads are fantastic. And we had a poison pill years ago when we started an undergraduate.
This is a great story.
I mean, it was hilarious in some ways. It's diabolical. The only way we could start an undergraduate, we started as the Graduate Center of the Southwest. I'm probably, don't take me literally, I paraphrase that. But basically as a graduate school. We were allowed to create an undergraduate program, but it had to have the equal quality that which would be at UT Austin, the premier flagship within the state. That was a poison pill. If you think about it, if you want to start, to create a startup and say your earnings must be the same as Microsoft tomorrow, at least in the academic parallel for that. Instead, we bought the talent. We found every national merit scholar. We created scholarship, fellowship programs. We gave people offers they literally could not refuse. And now we have close to 200 national merit scholars. That's a big number for a university, a colossal big number. You mean like a big number for Texas? No, I'm talking a big number for the world. And with it, we have fantastic students. Back when we used to do these SATs, ACTs, I think that's kind of going by the way the dinosaur is lately. But when we were doing those kinds of benchmarks, our students had median scores that were either above Rice or right below Rice, right? And ahead of UT Austin. We bought the talent, we created a culture of excellence, and people flock to that culture, especially when you have a diverse and inclusive environment.
I love the fact that they don't have a football team.
Chess team, we got a chess team.
As a mayor, I would rather not have to deal with that. But they do have the world-class chess team, and they recruit from all over the world for those chess players. But to your point about the diversity, whether it's autism and living with so many engineers my entire life, I know for a fact that a third of them probably were on an Asperger's type person. I always joke about looking at my shoes or your shoes to see how assertive a software developer might be. But that diversity is, as I mentioned, not just in our workforce, but in our neighborhoods. So I tell businesses when I talk to them about coming here, you'll have that diverse talent that thinks different, that approaches problems different in your business. But guess what? You can tag your marketing team to start thinking, well, geez, will that what we build work in other places. And you only have to go across the street to find out one of the multitudes of countries and ethnic backgrounds that we have here to test things. So it's really a benefit in multiple ways.
Yeah. Hey, and Doug, one of the questions I wanted to ask, right? Because, again, you're the one trying to stitch this whole thing together, right? Is, there's a lot that has to come together. We talked about it before. It's not just, having local government support or having a great research institute. You got to have risk capital. You've got to get the students to want to stay in the area to contribute back. So I'm going to put you on the spot here. What's missing from the IQ today? If you had to think about the one thing that you don't have today that you wish you had, that would kind of like really, light the afterburners. What's the one thing you don't have at IQ yet?
I think probably one of the biggest obstacles that we have right now in terms of selling the vision is having a kind of major hub that we can actually showcase. When you get off the train, you can see, hey, you're in a unique area. You're in the front door of the innovation district. That's something we've been working really hard on. I joke about this during that kind of heat of COVID when everything was shut down. We're talking to Joe through our first kind of Zoom calls, and Joe says, hey, talking about these hubs and kind of a clubhouse for innovation. You got this building over here sitting that's kind of vacant. Why don't you let us come over and just occupy it, and then we'll bring in some university talent over there. And from that one small conversation.
Doug, Doug, what I said is, give it to me, 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 give it to me.
And I think we kind of did.
Yeah. I know. So it just wish came true.
Yeah. So
it's been fantastic.
It heavily has, and how quickly it's moved with two large institutions to
so
get
you need
this
that
thing.
magnet. You
do.
You needed that magnet of some kind.
You do, and I think we're going to be opening this facility back in probably February, March timeframe, and I think that's going to give us a really good test case of what we're going to be able to produce in terms of collaboration, in terms of partnerships, in terms of bringing the right people to the place to help kind of build this out. Another piece we're doing right now is at our Arapahoe Center Station. I mentioned we're part of the Dallas area rapid transit system. We have 4 light rail stations. We have the new Silver Line coming through. It's going to have a station at UT Dallas. We'll be connecting to our Red Line light rail. So in terms of mass transit, we're a very well connected city. And at our Arapahoe Center Station is actually the front door to the innovation. So right now, you get off the station, you kind of see a surface parking lot, you see some transit activity. But there's not that kind of sense of arrival. And I think the effort we're taking right now with our DART partners, we've just now gone through a really in-depth process to get a good agreement in place. We're going to be taking this to the market, hopefully bringing on a partner for a master developer, kind of really visualize and have that sense of arrival, sense of place that I think it's really kind of missing right now. And I think it's just because this area was developed as the mayor mentioned, it's kind of the supply chain to the larger companies, the Collins Radio, Ericsson, TIs. And it didn't have that kind of walkability, the mix of uses, the residential component. And so this is an area we can actually kind of start capitalizing on and bringing those missing uses that are really important for that environment.
Right. Well, I've had a couple of guests on the show from other regions that have been trying to create this. My argument is, though, you need a good mix of large, medium, and small. You don't want all small because they're all struggling, and you don't get that pull. Medium and large are looking to the smaller companies to be the sparks.
Yeah.
Potential acquisition targets or potential feeders of ideas
If you look at the original IQ area, it was that supply chain, right? And there were, labs. Ericsson may have had its, North American headquarters in a Class A building, but they had several labs. And the same was true for many of the different telecom companies. But they were little companies like Pilot Fish, right? Might have swam around the IQ a little bit to be around those big companies. What's really cool about the new thinking is it's those pilot fish that are every bit as important as the big whale. Right. So yeah, the whales are important. Scale is important. I want a mix of all of those, but I want to incent those early stage innovation type companies that the big guys are going to say, hold it, I need to be around listening to what's going on at the IQ. Because to your point, it might be research, it might be an acquisition, it might be, just quite candidly, you and I have been through, I don't know how many different types of products that we've decided not to do, right? But you learn more from the mistakes
Yep.
that are being made out there than oftentimes the
Well,
successes.
the point being, if you look at HP, in the 10 years I was there, we did 88 acquisitions, right? So innovation by acquisition is a perfectly valid strategy,
Right.
right? And we also funded 240 universities
Yes.
to get that talent, to get the thinking even beyond the startups. You're looking at university funded research that kind of is that one step beyond, that hasn't even made it into that startup stage.
Right.
Thinking about your innovation funnel plays a pretty important role.
Well, and Joe can speak to this in much more detail than I can, but I remember when I was in corporate development, we were looking at those universities that HP sponsored. UT Austin was one of them,
Right.
but UT Dallas wasn't. And the way universities treat intellectual property and their knowledge of commercialization, those are really critical to what we think the vision of the IQ is going to be. And what I'm proud of is that it started with Dr. Daniel, but it continues on at UT Dallas. Commercialization, but also that whole who owns the IP. And companies can be comfortable that it can start, that light bulb can turn on that campus, and then you can see it go through the whole process. And that's really what I'm excited about seeing happen. That's the intellectual property side. Then there's to Doug's point, we got to build a place where that PhD graduate student can graduate and go live. And we hope it's in the IQ where he can live upstairs and work downstairs. And then we're really coming around in the years that I've been here looking at investments. Some of the money that's always been in the Dallas area has gone through a generational change. And the next generation doesn't just look for oil and gas or things like that. That next generation of that high net worth wealth actually embraces technology.
Right.
So the timing's everything in life, right? So the university being a tier 1 institution with great ideas about how to allow intellectual property to move forward, a next generation of investment capital that isn't afraid of technology, and then really bright people in a workforce that we can tap into. I don't know what UT Dallas is. It's over 4,500 IT graduates.
I honestly,
it's amazing.
It's a staggering number, and I think that I'm glad that the mayor's brought this up. It's we have this Institute for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. It's started several years ago, and it crosses multiple parts of the educational and programmatic space in the university. It's really changed the culture, and we also have, hearing how great the Office of Technology Commercialization is, and it is. But let me give you a concrete reason why it actually is something distinctive. We have an alternative intellectual property agreement model, even though we're a state institution, we're a state agency, and so with it, the idea that we're going to be able to do work and give it to our sponsor becomes problematic because we're not supposed to do work for the private sector,
Right.
Okay, without giving it to everybody. We have developed a unique relationship approved by our Office of General Counsel where we can give the intellectual property to the corporate sponsor. And it frees up all sorts of really exciting opportunities. We're the only one in Texas doing it. We did the hard work to get it approved and created a fantastic framework for implementation.
Yeah,
Yet it's accessible.
you're bringing back memories. I don't know if you remember the Dole Act, right? Because the Dole Act had the problem with intellectual properties, and I was working with Dr. Phil Phillips, who was in charge of tech transfer at the University of Illinois.
Yeah.
Probably the number 4 universities in the country for research dollars, 297th in the country of tech transfer because of state rules. That barred the state rules and the
culture too. I mean,
culture, because professors are like, that's a conflict of interest. I'm not going to get involved in that. That's
So think of it this way: we take people that are at prime, the creative abilities. We tell them, you know what? You're going to work on a company and corporate stuff. Do that. That's not going to count for your promotion and tenure. Tenure, theoretically, is a lifetime job. So you're going to mess with that now? Okay, that's the ivory tower model.
Right,
And
exactly.
we're beyond that. We have a culture where we respect and we include considerations of what impact you have in your science and technology,
That's a
and
big,
we reward it. And so
that is
it's
perfect.
it is exactly the way you need a great tier 1 research institution to be your partner, okay? And to be a partner, we've reached a point now, Phil. We've reached a point now where great universities can no longer stand up and say, "We're great, give us money."
Right.
We have to say, now, what's your value?
But this also plays out though with this issue of the being co-resident though in something like the IQ. It's not
Absolutely.
separate. It's not like I got to go drive an hour away to go have a conversation with researchers. They're actually, 15
here.
feet away,
Co-located.
or we're in the restaurant together. We run into each other. The serendipity effect, which is really the spark that drives a lot of innovation efforts.
That's exactly right.
It's like dealing with large companies or large institutions, universities. Oftentimes you don't know what door to go into.
Right.
But what you need first is just to know where the doors are.
Right.
And those things will happen if you can get access. And that's what, we're really trying to accomplish in the innovation quarter is access. It's transportation access.
Mm-hmm.
It's communications access. It's educational access.
It's coffee access.
It
We're going to
is.
need to be caffeinated.
We have a podcast of our own that we do that's around the IQ brew. It's a coffee talk around innovation, right? But it is someplace where I am so proud as a council member. We get to, people ask, what do city council people do, right? One of the neat things we get to do is create a place. And I've got 5 or 6 places we've created in the city of Richardson. One of those places is the IQ.
Mm-hmm.
And when you create something like the IQ, it's a place, you get to create a culture, you get to create value.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not afraid to say we also get to create wealth.
Yep.
Because that's what drives a lot of these innovative ideas is that opportunity to have that creation of wealth, which gets reinvested back into the institutions, into new companies,
Exactly.
into that workforce that we keep producing that are highly educated and need a place to go. So that's the vision.
The point that I point out to people with regards to that reinvestment opportunity is if you think about Silicon Valley, the number one private donator to UC Berkeley. Any idea who it is? Art Fong, employee number 9 at HP, right? For a citizen, Art Fong, being Chinese, couldn't even buy his house in Palo Alto. David Packard bought it under his name for Art because they couldn't buy it back in the early 40s. For HP, but Art turned around and reinvested. You think about the number of students that have come out of UC Berkeley that have spawned other companies. It is this payback effect. You incentivize, you reward, you recognize, and it comes back. But you got to be willing. This is generational.
Right.
I think part of the challenge we have as a society is we're thinking short term. What am I going to get next month? What am I going to get next quarter? These are long-term committed efforts.
The bet that the 3 of the founders of TI made in creating UT Dallas was that long-term investment view. The Art Collinses of the world, coming from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, down to Richardson to create a second plant for redundancy and other aspects of technology they wanted to go explore. It's amazing that if a very good friend of mine who will probably listen to this podcast, he knows what I'm going to talk about. We've spent a lot of time looking at the DNA of the area. Where did people start to work at? What universities did they come from? What companies did they go to work for? What companies did they start? It's a fascinating thing. And when we looked at the research that many of the consultants we hired to do for the IQ, we looked at best in class. So we said, how did Silicon Valley and relationships with Stanford, or in Boston with relationships with MIT and others, Research Triangle Park. We looked at in places in the UK and around the world. And we really wanted to understand what success looked like. And that's what we're really trying to create here.
Right. As we wrap this up, I wanted to thank all three of you for spending the time today. And I'm anxious to be able to actually get to talk to more people over the next couple of days here in Richardson. So thanks again for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's
Appreciate
fantastic.
it.
Now, with that interview you just listened, you were given a number of key nuggets. I particularly appreciated the conversation around technology transfer from universities, but also how you as an innovator can work with local government to get the support, the resources, the infrastructure you need wherever you live. You do not have to be in Silicon Valley. Cities like Richardson, we've had shows on capabilities even in areas such as rural Kentucky that can support the needs of innovators. Don't be shy. Reach out, build those relationships with local communities, your local government, with local universities. It takes a village, it takes a community to bring innovations to fruition and create those local jobs that are just so important. Thanks for joining us today. We really do appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule. Your time is very valuable, and we never take it for granted. I know how busy I can be, and sometimes I fall behind on my podcast. The fact that you are taking the time out of your schedule to listen, I greatly appreciate it. So how are we doing? Give us some feedback. We are running a series of shows here with interviews with outside guests, particularly here in Richardson, Texas, which is one of our first stops of being on the road, looking for local innovators that have interesting stories, things that they're doing that I think are just interesting to me and I believe would be interesting to you, and give you some insights and maybe even give you some ideas or some suggestions with regards to your own efforts. So how are we doing? Give us some feedback. Post a comment on anywhere where you get your podcast. Reach out to us on social media or drop us an email, phil@killerinnovations.com. If you have a guest, if you have a city or location, if you have a place you think we should travel to and meet with local officials and meet with local innovators and local leaders from university, business, technology, government, let us know. We would love to replicate what we are doing here in Richardson with other communities, to hear their stories and share those stories with others. The other is what questions or topics you would like for us to cover on future episodes. Let us know on that. Before we go, I do have, again, one more favor. Help me pay it forward. This podcast started back in 2005 on the premise that my mentor, Bob Davis, told me I could not pay it back, all the time and energy he built into my career, that I had to pay it forward. So this podcast started as a way for me to share my experiences, my expertise, my career, what I've learned, the mistakes I've made, in hopes of helping you. Help me pay it forward by extending and reaching and finding the broadest possible audience who could benefit from hearing the stories, the special guests, the expertise we share here on Killer Innovations. So I appreciate that. Let other people know. And with that, thanks. We will be back soon with another episode. Bye-bye.
Podcasting nonstop since 2005, this has been the Killer Innovation Show on the Innovators Network.